The information I'm going to share with you comes from two places. One is the neuroscience, that so much of it is being written about right now. It's fascinating. And the second are 75 leadership interviews that I did over the last year and a half. Of those 75 leaders, 74 of them said that intuition is essential to their leadership success. Couldn't do without it. An essential skill. So if intuition is indispensable for those leaders, then that's something we ought to be talking about. If you could make the decision, you would have. But there's a nagging feeling that's holding you back. So the delay in the decision cost money. That money is real opportunity. So you just can't afford to overthink it again and again and again. When do you feel that the time is right to make the decision to move forward? And then you have to go. Here's how I explain Infotuition. It is the intersection of information and intuition, where cognition and intuition intersect for decision making for that particular situation. Infotuition. Now, some of you are thinking, are you kidding me? I've got emails stacking up, and you brought me here to talk about intuition? Director, did you lose your mind? Maybe? I didn't say that. When you're overthinking a decision, you are making a decision with less than 1/3 of your brain. So we want to learn how to stop overthinking it. So as I began to interview those 75 people, here's what I began to hear. I heard a pattern start developing in what they told me about their leadership and their decision making. As they talked about very simple decisions, you could hear that it was very cognitive. But the more complex their decisions became, the more intuitive their decision-making became. The more complex, the more intuitive, the simpler, more cognitive. Now I want to share a little bit of research with you. In 1997, University of Iowa did a research study. They had some participants in the research study, and they gave them $2,000 of play money. There were red cards and there were blue cards. And the goal was to make as much money as you could by turning over cards. The test was to see how many cards did they have to turn over before they cognitively understood that the deck was stacked. It took 80 cards before they cognitively understood the game. But here's the thing. Their skin was wired with sensors. How many cards did they turn over before the neurological system in their body knew something was up? It was 10. 10 cards before the skin reacted and they began to subconsciously change their behavior. It took another 60 cards for the brain to catch on. Your brain is the last to know. For chronic overthinkers, and again, that's what I am, for chronic overthinkers, what I tell them is that to recognize that the feeling that you have is just as valid as the thought that you have. So it's actually working for you, but if you deny the feeling that's coming to you, you're literally denying part of your wisdom. At some point, you have knee-jerk reactions. What's that like for you? Here's what I hear from people. It's a quick reaction. There's little thought that goes into it. You react rather than respond. It is emotion-based. And how about this one? Apologies may be necessary. So I was brand new in my dream job. Do you think I wanted to do a good job? Yeah. I was intent on being successful in that position. Hadn't been there long. I got a phone call from my boss. And he says, "Hey, Shelley, what can you tell me about this paperwork for one of your employees requesting a year-long transfer to another agency?" I said, "I can't tell you anything about it. It's the first I've heard of it." I said, Okay, that's fine. I thought that might be the case. I'm going to send the paperwork back down. You figured it out. Let me know if you want me to do something. Fine. No big deal. I call that staff person into my office and I'm telling myself cognitively, I can handle this. I'm good. I'm good at these situations. And I asked that staff person to tell me about what was going on with this proposal to go to another agency. And as they were telling me about the situation, I remember my chest tightening. I remember feeling warm. I remember my jaw clenching. I remember that just before I blew. And I gave that poor person a day to remember. It remains one of the worst memories of my leadership career. It was a trigger. You have triggers. You need to know what they are. You identify them by an overreaction, and you need to unwind them to understand what they are. So that's your second question. Are you overreacting because of some trigger that you're holding on too tight? We are going to artificially trigger your neurological system. So much fun. So let me just tell you first how this is going to work. So now I happen to know Richard, so I'm going to ask Richard to be my partner here. So we need an active partner and observing partner. So decide who's going to be that first. Okay, so Richard, you're going to be the observing partner. Let me move you over here. So active partners, here's what you're going to do. When your partner is faced away from you and they're calm, they're in their happy place, and they don't know that you're coming, you're going to reach up and you're going to grab the inside of their wrist, and you're going to say their name sharply and then hang on until they tell you to stop. So active partner, that's what you're going to do. Observing partner, all you're going to do is to observe your somatic markers. I want you to note what you feel and where you feel it in your body. That's all you're going to do. Okay, whenever you're ready. So first, let me explain this to everybody. When you have a triggering event, you have a natural kind of reaction that's one of 5 styles. It's either fight, flight, freeze, appease, or dissociate. See, it's important for you to understand what that kind of go-to reaction is for you, because that's what's going to happen when you have that knee-jerk reaction. Your brain executes, tells you how to do things efficiently, but the direction you set in your life, it comes from your heart. And to honor that and to bring it into the workplace, to bring it into your life, wow, that's just so special.